Dennis, where are you? My water broke, come home right away. My voice trembled as I clutched the phone, sweat dripping down my temple. Every wave of pain grew sharper, and my hands shook as I tried to keep calm. What? That's impossible. Dennis replied with an irritated laugh. I'm in Hawaii with Polly right now. I'm not anywhere near you, so why don't you call your parents? For a moment, I froze. His words didn't make sense. Hawaii? With Polly? Today was my due date. The doctor had warned us for weeks. He knew. He promised me he'd be here. But instead, he was thousands of miles away with her. Anger surged through me, but another sharp contraction ripped across my body, forcing me to grab the edge of the bed. I didn't have time to scream at him. I needed help, now. With trembling fingers, I dialed my father. Dad, my water broke. I can't reach Dennis. Please come. Allison, don't panic. Stay where you are. I'll be there in 5 minutes, he said firmly. True to his word, my father arrived almost immediately, with Rufus, one of his most trusted employees, rushing behind him. They carefully helped me into the car, and before long, I was in the hospital delivery room. Hours of pain, tears, and determination later, I heard the cry of a baby girl fill the room. My daughter, my sweet, innocent baby who had done nothing to deserve being ignored by her father. Still, when the nurses congratulated me, my heart was heavy. Dennis wasn't there. He hadn't called. He hadn't shown up. Instead, he was lying on a beach in Hawaii with Polly, the woman he claimed was just a childhood friend. Even after he learned about the birth, he didn't come to the hospital. The nurses asked several times if the father was coming, and every time I forced a weak smile, saying, he's busy with work. But I knew the truth. Dennis cared more about Polly than his newborn daughter. Something inside me broke that day. The loneliness, the betrayal, the bitterness, all of it crystallized into cold determination. I couldn't live like this anymore, silently waiting for scraps of affection from a husband who no longer saw me as his priority. I needed to act. While holding my baby in my arms, I whispered to her, "Don't worry, sweetheart, Mommy won't let him hurt us anymore." That night, I called my father into the hospital room. He had been staying late, making sure both the baby and I were safe. "Dad, I need your help," I said quietly. He pulled up a chair, his eyes narrowing with concern. "What is it, Allison?" "I want to teach Dennis a lesson, a real one, something he'll never forget." I explained my idea, something bold, something shocking. It wouldn't just be a warning, it would be a statement. At first, my father frowned. "Isn't that going a bit too far? You haven't even sat down to talk to him yet." "Maybe." "There's no point," I interrupted. "You know what he's like. Dennis will never admit he's wrong, and unless we do something drastic, he'll keep walking all over me, over this baby. Please, Dad, I need this." He looked at me for a long moment, then sighed deeply. "You've always been strong-willed. Fine, I'll help. But remember, Allison, once we do this, there's no going back." "I know," I said firmly. "That's exactly what I want." A week later, I was discharged from the hospital. My recovery had gone well, and I moved into my parents' house with the baby. But before I went home, I made one important stop. Our house, or rather, the empty lot where it used to be. While Dennis was sipping cocktails in Hawaii, my father had mobilized his company. In just a few days, the house Dennis and I shared, the one built under my father's name, was completely demolished. All that remained was a roped-off lot and a letter I had taped to the barrier. Dennis's belongings? Already boxed up and sent to his parents' home, along with a carefully worded explanation of his behavior. From their angry response, I knew they weren't on his side this time. As I stood there, the wind tugging at my hair, I smiled bitterly. Dennis thought he was clever, sneaking around with Polly, but when he came back from paradise, he'd be standing in the middle of an empty lot with nothing but a letter staring him in the face. And that was only the beginning. I was boiling inside. My chest rose and fell as I sat in my room, thoughts swirling like a storm I couldn't contain. Finally, I lost my temper. Enough was enough. Dennis had crossed a line that could never be erased. As I traced the outline of my plan in my head, I gripped the edge of the table so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced, cold, sharp, and merciless. That man thought he could humiliate me, abandon me during childbirth, and then return as if nothing had happened? No. This time, he would learn. Allison, what a scary face you're making. The sudden voice from behind made me jump. My heart thudded in my chest as I spun around, only to find my father standing in the doorway. His eyes, filled with concern, searched mine. Dad, how long have you been there? I asked, forcing my voice steady. I just came in, he said calmly. I was going to call out to you, but you were looking down with such a frightening expression. Is it about Dennis? I lowered my gaze and nodded quietly. His words hit me like a mirror. Had I really been making such a terrifying face? I turned slightly, catching a glimpse of myself in the mirror across the room. My lips were pressed tight, my brows furrowed with fury. I quickly tried to stretch my mouth into a smile, but the reflection looked hollow, almost grotesque. Still, seeing my father here sparked a thought. This was the chance. If anyone could help me bring Dennis to his knees, it was him. Dad, I said firmly, lifting my eyes to his, I have something to ask you, and I'll need everyone at the company to help. My father's brows drew together as I laid out my plan in detail, his arms folded across his chest, his face unreadable as he listened. I told him everything, about Dennis, about Polly, about the humiliation I endured, about how I wanted him to return and face the ruins of his own life. When I finally finished, silence stretched between us. Then, slowly, my father tilted his head. Allison, he said gently, isn't that going a bit too far? You haven't even had a proper discussion with him since the baby was born. Well, the company's not busy right now, so it's possible, but still. It's fine, I cut in, my voice sharp. There's no point in talking to Dennis. Someone like him won't reflect on his actions unless we teach him a lesson he'll never forget. Please, Dad. I clasped my hands together, desperation leaking into my tone. For a moment, he only stared, as though measuring the weight of my determination. Finally, his shoulders eased, and he sighed. You really won't back down, will you? No, I said firmly. He gave a small nod. Then fine, we'll do it your way. Relief surged through me, and for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of satisfaction. I could already picture Dennis's shocked expression. A week passed after my delivery. My body healed quickly, and soon I was strong enough to leave the hospital with my daughter cradled in my arms. Instead of returning to my old house, I moved into my parents' home, where I knew we'd be safe. Meanwhile, the plan I had entrusted to my father was executed swiftly. The employees of his construction company, loyal and efficient, carried it out during my hospital stay. On the way home from discharge, I made a small detour. I stopped by the place that used to be my house. The home Dennis and I had shared was gone, leveled completely. Nothing remained but a roped-off empty lot and a single letter I had attached to the barrier, carefully sealed in plastic to withstand the rain. The sight made me smile. This was no longer a place of betrayal, it was a stage for justice. Later, I called the hospital where Dennis worked, just to confirm. As I suspected, he had filed for a 2-week leave, claiming it was for his wife's delivery. In truth, he had been basking in the Hawaiian sun with Polly, his so-called childhood friend. By my calculation, today would be the day he returned. And just as expected, my phone rang that evening. Dennis's voice erupted through the receiver, high-pitched and panicked. Allison, what the hell is going on? Why is our house just an empty lot? Where's all my stuff? More importantly, where are you right now? I bit back a laugh, savoring his desperation. I'll answer all your questions, I said calmly, but no need to ask them all at once. The truth was simple. The house had never been his. It was in my father's name, built by his company. With one call, I had it demolished. Dennis's belongings had been carefully packed and delivered to his parents' home. When I explained everything to his parents, their fury at his betrayal nearly burst through the phone. They even begged to come apologize in person, but I told them this matter was between Dennis and me, for now. As I laid this out, Dennis stuttered incoherently, like a child caught stealing candy. He still hadn't noticed the final touch, so I decided to remind him. By the way, did you happen to see my letter? It's attached to the rope around the empty lot. I wrapped it in plastic so it wouldn't get wet. I could hear the frantic shuffle of footsteps on the other end. The rustle of plastic being torn. Then, a strangled gasp. Allison, what is this? Divorce papers? You already filled out your part. Why? What have I done to deserve this? I let out a low, humorless laugh. Oh, Dennis. You mean besides abandoning your wife during childbirth so you could take a Hawaiian vacation with Polly? That alone is grounds for divorce. That wasn't an affair, he shouted. Where's your evidence? I just went because Polly wanted to travel. Nothing happened. Don't accuse me of things I didn't do. His denial made me roll my eyes. Evidence? We had more than enough. The night I gave birth, when I told my father about Dennis's trip with Polly, Rufus, his trusted employee, had been present. His reaction was immediate, his voice sharp. Polly? Polly Lopez? That's my ex-wife who just divorced me. The revelation floored me. I had never seen Rufus's wife, but when I described her appearance and details Dennis had mentioned, Rufus confirmed it without doubt. I know exactly which resort she wanted to visit, Rufus said grimly. Leave it to me. Within hours, Rufus dispatched a team of young employees to the very resort where Dennis and Polly were staying. They booked the room next door and documented everything. Photos of Dennis and Polly walking hand in hand, whispering intimately, entering their room together, even muffled recordings of their late-night activities, captured through the thin hotel walls. When I told Dennis over the phone that all of this evidence existed, silence stretched on the other end. Then, without another word, he hung up. I smirked. I knew exactly where he was going. Not long after, Rufus and I drove to a familiar apartment complex, the very one Rufus had once shared with Polly during their short-lived marriage. And sure enough, we were right. Dennis would be there, running to her like a fool, never realizing the trap had already been set.